Okay, hi guys. Sorry I'm not here today. I was feeling a little under the weather, so I'm not going to be here in class today. But what I want you guys to do is I want you to listen to this video so that we can go through the notes that we were supposed to go through today, okay? So just a couple of reminders is one, the concept check that we were going to do today, I've decided to postpone until Tuesday, so make sure that you are ready to do that. To quickly go over what those topics were, I made a list here. If you want to pause this video for a second, take a quick or write these down, I would recommend doing that. Okay, and then also on Tuesday, I will check yesterday's homework as well as Friday's homework, so today's homework. Okay, so here's what we're going to start off with, okay, is it says we are starting off with writing proofs. So what I want you guys to do is before we actually start writing formal algebraic proofs, I'm going to actually ask you guys to read this story. So it says we are going to be, we have the following sentences based on a story. If you take a mouse to school, which if you haven't read that book ever yet, it's quite a cute book. It's a little kid's book. But what she basically does is the author, she uses conditional statements to create stories. So what I did is I took passages from the actual story, and what you're going to have to do is take A through H. You're going to have to put them in correct order. Okay, meaning like after this starting phrase, what phrase came next, okay? I'm going to give you guys a quick little hint before I let you go, okay? Usually, it's a conditional statement. Think about, like, the last sentence of her phrase. Looking at my options, look at an option where that pink underline becomes the first option of the phrase, okay? So let's, here's what I'm going to have you guys do. This is going to be your warm-up, and I'll go through it on Tuesday as well. I want you to pause this video, and I want you to work with others. Take about like 10 minutes to do this, so don't just rush through it. Make sure that you're like checking with others and also writing your own on your own sheet, okay? So to pause this video right now. Okay, so the reason I did that is because when we are talking about writing a proof, we're talking about writing things in sequential order. So before we give our reasons, what I wanted you guys to do is that we're going to put these following 4 steps into its order, okay? So here's what I'm going to start off with. Is the first thing is I noticed that this has a parenthesis, okay? I would say generally with parentheses, that's what you usually put first. So for number 1, that would be A. Okay, now I'm going to write off here to the side what A is, okay, and I'm basically going to be thinking about, okay, I'm solving for X. So in my first step, what would I do? Well, I would distribute this 2 to both terms, and you would get 2X plus 6, okay, equals 8. Now looking above, that looks like letter D, so that would be your second step, okay. Then, for letters B and C, okay, what you would do is you would subtract 6 from both sides, and you would get 2x equals 2, and that's letter B. And then finally, solving for x, you would divide by 2, and you would find x is 1, and that's C. So getting the habit of putting things in order is what is important, okay? Okay, guys, so here's how we're going to think about this. These are going to be our statements. Okay, that's what we're going to call these. Okay. In our proofs, we are going to be using 2-column proofs, which means that you're going to have one column for the statements, and then the other column is going to be your reasons. Now, we're going to need to pick up about what those reasons are. So let's look at the next page to see what reasons we could possibly give, okay? So let's do this. Let's say I was to rewrite the proof from above, okay? It would be 2 parentheses, x plus 3 equals 8, okay? The reason for that would just be what was given, so we don't have to necessarily put a reason there, okay? But now we have to figure out all the other reasons for 2x. That next line, 2x plus 6 equals 8. 2x equals 2, and then x equals 1, okay? So here's what my reasons are. I'm going to label these as number 1, number 2, and number 3. I need 3 different reasons, okay? And here's what all of my reasons can be, okay? It's right below. So it's a lot to digest, but here's what I'm going to say about this, okay? With the first four, at addition property of equality, subtraction property of equality, multiplication property of equality, and division property of equality, okay? Basically, that just means when you are adding to both sides, when you are subtracting, okay, when you are multiplying, and when you are dividing. Okay, it's not anything more complicated than those four. It's just that they add the property and then of equality to represent that you are equal on both sides. Okay, the one things I want you guys to think about is the biggest one. Okay, we're gonna highlight this is distributive property. Okay, that's when you distribute a number out front side of the parentheses and then you multiply through. So looking at that first statement, to get from this line to that line, okay, I distributed my 2 to both x and 3. So that first one, the reason would be that first one, distributive property of equality, okay? Now, here's what I need to think about is for my second and third lines, okay? To get from this line to the next line, I subtracted 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put next to a 2, representing how I got to that line next to subtraction property of equality, okay? And then finally, for the last step is I divided to get from steps 2 to 3. And so my final reason would be your division property of equality. So those three are the ones I used in the above proof, okay? Okay, so now what we're going to do, and if I'm going through this too quickly, feel free to pause me for a second to get caught up, okay? What we're going to do is I'm going to be showing you guys how a proof is laid out, okay? So let's do that. Okay, so it says complete the algebraic proofs, okay? Here's what you're generally given in a statement, okay? You're given, okay? You have to start with something. And then you end with your proof, okay? So here's what I want you guys to do is in your first and last statement, I want you to copy down what you were given in your first statement, okay? Equals 27, okay? And then in number 4, you should end up with x equals 18, okay? So you're actually given the answer. What you have to do is you have to think about how we are going to get to that answer, okay? Okay, so let's just first focus in on just this column, statements, okay? We're just going to solve for x like we've done before, okay? So if I'm looking exclusively at this line, okay, I have a 1/2 out front of the parentheses, which means I'm going to take that 1/2, I'm going to multiply it through, which means I'm going to take half of 4, that's going to be 2x, and then I'm going to take half of negative 18, that's going to be 9. So you end up with 2x minus 9 equals 27, okay? Just one more line to fill in, and then that'll be it, okay? So for the next step, what I would do is I would take 9 and I would add it to both sides. So you get 2x equals, that would be, I'm sorry guys, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 36. Couldn't think of it for a second, okay? And then finally divide by 2, and you would end up with 18, okay? Now, here's what I want you guys to think of for the reasons, okay? I want you to think of all the intermediate steps that you talked about, okay? Now, I'm going to give you guys a freebie. So like in bingo, when you're given that free space in the middle of the board, this first line is a freebie, okay? So for your first reason, every single time you should write given, okay? Because if you notice, that was your given in your proof, okay? So very first line, your reason is given, okay? Now, here's what I want you guys to think for the other 3 reasons, okay? You need to think about the steps that you moved in between to find both x and the lines in between, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think about what my first step was, okay? Which means that I multiplied this through, okay? And that's known as distributive property, Okay, so for my reason for my second part, that would be that distributive property of equality. Okay, that's what it'd be for that. Okay. Now, for my third reason, okay, it's the same idea. How did I get from my second line to my third line? Well, I added 9 to both sides. So if you're looking at your reasons from above, okay, if you are adding 9 to both sides, that's going to be addition, okay? And all the properties that we've learned thus far have been addition property, and then always add the for equality, or of equality, I mean. Okay. So you added 9 to both sides, and then in the final step, you went from 2x equals 36 to x equals 18. How did you find that? Well, you just simply divided by 2. So that last reason to why x is 18 would be the operation you did, so division, and then it's always property of equality. Okay? And there you have it, your proof written out. Okay. Okay. Let's try one more. Okay. And I'm going to show you guys how we can start a proof not given a table. Okay. Okay. So I would always do your statements first just to be consistent. So you always start off with what is your given line. Okay. So 3x minus 4 equals 14. And then you're going to end up with x equals 6. Okay. Okay, so when I do this, what I would do is, if I was solving for x just from that first line, okay, what you would be doing is you would add 4 to both sides, okay? And so you want to get 3x equals 14 plus 4 is going to be 18, okay? And then finally, your last step would just be divide by 3, okay? So it would be x equals 6. So again, this is just algebra. You've learned this before, okay? But now we have to give reasons to why we're doing each one of these statements, okay? All right, so if you can recall, okay, your reason for number 1 is always given, okay? If you write anything other than given, it's wrong, okay? So take the free pass, okay? Okay, so for the next one, okay, you want to think about, like, what's the intermediate step? So what's the between step? Well, if you notice, I put a plus 4 there, so that's going to be addition, and then it's always addition property of equality. Okay. So you have it there. Okay. Okay, and then finally, okay, for that last step, you divide it by 3 to get x equals 6. So your last reason will be division property of equality. And there you have it. You're all done. Okay. Okay. So the last one, okay, notice how I'm not giving you a table. Okay, so here's what you want to do is before you do anything else, okay, you're going to put statement in the first column, okay, and then you're going to put reasons in the second column, okay. You don't know how many steps there are, so you don't want to, like, label them as 1 through 4, okay. You're just going to kind of progress along, okay. Okay, so how do I start off a proof that's not already written out on a table for me, okay? You're going to put in number 1, okay? And you're going to put what your given statement is, which is that 5 times x plus 3 minus 4 equals 10, okay? You always have to give a reason for your statement. So that first reason is always given, okay? It's kind of nice, okay? Okay, so then from there, okay, what I would do is I would go back to my statement, okay, so I would write a second line. Okay, so my first step is always when you see parentheses, you're going to multiply whatever that number is on the outside to both parts of the parenthesis. So it would be 5 times x, 5x, and then 5 times 3 is positive 15, minus 4 equals 10. Okay, now for the reason of that, you want to think about like what did you do in the intermediate step, okay? Well, I distributed it 5 to both x plus 3, so that's going to be your distributive property of equality. Okay, so like that. Okay. Okay, so then I go back to my statements and I'm going to write a third line. Remember, I'm solving for x, okay? So now looking at what I have, well, I noticed that on this side, I have 15 minus 4, and so that's just going to be by combining them, you're going to get 11 equals 10. Okay? Sorry, guys, let me just add this. Okay? Okay, so what I did is, if you look back up your reasons, okay, it's not going to be subtraction property of equality because you're not subtracting like a certain number to both sides. Instead, what we want to look at is, do you guys see where it says combine like terms? Okay, that's going to be your reason because both 15 and 4 are like terms, so that would be your reason for number 3. Okay. Okay. So that's your third step. Your fourth step, now you're solving for x. I would subtract 11 to both sides, so you would get 5x equals negative 1. Okay, and now since we are subtracting 11, my fourth reason would be subtraction property of equality. Okay. So do you guys see how that's different from what I did before? Okay, I know I'm not there, but think about it. Okay. Okay, and then finally, if I'm solving for x, I would divide. Okay, so you would get x is equal to negative 1/5. Okay, and the reason for that would be you divide it, so it would be division property of equality. Okay. Okay. And looking at what I was given and what I was trying to prove, once you end up with the line that you're trying to prove, you're done. Okay? So that's it. Okay? So I know I went through that kind of quickly, but here's what we'll do on Tuesday is we're just going to review using probably a quizzes. So if you didn't totally grasp what I was saying, it's fine. We will cover it as well on Tuesday. But here's what I want you guys to do, okay? Is I want you guys to try 1 through 8, okay? You're solving for x in each one of these, okay? So make sure you do that. If you need more room, I would recommend doing it on a different sheet of paper. Also, one other thing to note, I would have this page out in your notes to know what all the properties you could use are, okay? Okay, you guys can sign up if you are done, but make sure that 1 through 8 is done as well as yesterday's homework is done by Tuesday. I'll see you guys Tuesday, okay? Bye.